CRW Worldwide Production, proudly sponsored by Wells Fargo.
And this is how to get your money right. Clifton Johnson, welcome to How to Get Your Money Right. You're in financial services. You've started this nonprofit in Dallas, Texas. It's been very successful, the Empower series. Mm-hmm. How did you first get on the pathway toward financial services?
Well, I'll tell you first, I wanted to go to college. And I knew that my parents didn't have money to afford paying for my college. So my focus was education and sports. That was my focus, that was my vision and my dream. That's what I went to bed dreaming about. And I realized that when I went to college and was making a lot of money playing football, I wanted to manage my own money. I couldn't trust anybody else. So that was my interest in just learning about money. I read books about money, even during high school and college. So my focus has always been about, if I'm going to be wealthy, I need to understand how to manage it and not just trust other people. And so when I went to college, I graduated with a business degree, and I started as a staff accountant for a telephone company, and worked my way up to the controller and the first black officer of a gas company in Texas. I looked at my life and thought, how did I get here? Is this what I really want to do? I want to really, I have a message that I felt like our people needed to hear. Everybody was chasing money, but I think what's more important than the money is your purpose. And so I thought, let me take a shift. So in 2004, I decided to get my license in financial planning and to start my journey in delivering my message about what's really important, which is not necessarily money initially, but it's your purpose and the way you think, which dictates how you spend your time, which dictates your relationships, and then it manifests with money.
I like the word purpose. You know, in the entertainment industry, in the sports industry, and in other fields, everybody's concerned about their brand.
Right.
And I always tell people once they start bragging about their brand, so what is your mission? What is your purpose? Mm. And I think you have found your purpose. What would you say is the essential purpose of the Empower series?
Our mission is to be a positive impact in the world by inspiring people to thrive in every area of their life, because the principles of what it takes to be successful are transferable to any area, whether it's money, whether it's your personal life, your spiritual life, or your community involvement. And so my vision is to see that everybody has a clear purpose of what they want to accomplish, and they're making steps progressively to achieve it. And that I would define as being successful. Because when you have any goal, you always have a vision of yourself that is different than where you are. When I was in Los Angeles, I wanted to be out of LA. I wanted to be in college and play football. That wasn't where I was when I was in South Central LA. So I think one of the most difficult things that people have to do is to believe in this dream or the vision they have, regardless of the current circumstances. And I've been inspired by many people who had big dreams. So my mission of the Empower series is to give people hope that whatever they envision, they can achieve. In all of our programs, we inspire them to take action on their ideas, because we're all called to be stewards of our ideas. We definitely educate you, but education is not enough. It's critically important, but the key is relationships and connection to resources. And I believe that there's enough resources in our communities, and there's an illusion of lack. There are resources in every community of professionals who are successful that will pour into the community and each other to help people achieve their goals. That's why it's called the Empower series. Identifying what is the wealth mindset, what are the principles that you should be thinking about, and then how do you embed that over years of oppressive thoughts. That's step number one.
Not gonna believe this, girl.
Dad! Dad, have you seen this?
I did it.
Wells Fargo helps thousands of students go to college
He got in.
by funding $107 million in scholarships and programming for diverse communities.
Don't worry, I'll be back.
When a bank does what it says,
I know you can do it.
opportunity happens. Doing gets it done. Wells Fargo. the bank of doing.
How do you respond to this myth that it's impossible for you to be wealthy in America because of your skin color? We are mired down in poverty. It's a permanent thing. So how does your program engage those myths, those stereotypes, those preconceived conditions that are not necessarily accurate, but that's the prevalent view?
I think there's multiple answers to it, but the idea that I've been given is to do programs to give people the experience of other people who are successful. You know, we were just talking the other day, or just recently, about when you look at somebody and see them being successful, that's all they see. And they don't see the process of success. Right. But I'll tell you right now that we all start at the same place. We all start with an idea and probably no idea as to how we're going to make that reality. But the people who make it a reality take action and they have faith. So faith without works is nowhere. And so I want to give people the experience that no matter what level of success that you see in anybody, you can do it too. And what they do is they come in, they share their story of how they've overcome adversity to achieve their goal. So that connects them to the attendees. And then they just give their points. They give what they've learned from it, an empowering message or a financial literacy topic. So every year we talk about visioning and goal setting in January. In February, we talk about entrepreneurship. In March, we talk about credit management. In April, which is National Financial Literacy Month, we talk about raising your financial literacy IQ. No matter where you are, you can always learn more. In May, we talk about finding scholarships for college, because it's a myth to think that if you go to college, you've got to go into debt. Especially with African Americans, we find that we have the most amount of college loans and debts when we come out of college, and we have low income. And so it makes it very hard for us to actually save. And then in June, we talk about home ownership, because real estate is very important. In August, we talk about growth mindset. In September, which is National Life Insurance Month, we talk about life insurance, because someday we're not going to wake up, and we want to make sure that we're giving our family enough resources to continue their journey. And then in October, we talk about estate planning. So every year we cover those topics. And in November, we bring somebody in to talk about their journey of how they put all of that together. We've been doing that for over 13 years. We've impacted over 500,000 lives in making progressive steps to help them achieve their goal.
You are now a mentor to thousands of people. Who's your mentor?
My father was definitely my first mentor. My father has taught me the value of being a servant leader. You know, he sacrificed for his family, and he worked hard, and he wasn't braggadocious about it. And then my father and my mother passed away when I was younger. And so my other mentors at that time were my uncle and aunt, Dr. James Frank and Dr. Zelma Frank. My uncle did a lot of things in collegiate athletics, and he loved sports. So what I learned from them is that you can mesh your passion with your purpose in life, as well as with making money. And he was very successful. He actually became the first African-American president of the National Collegiate Athletic Association, also the first president to serve in that role, because previously it was always athletic directors. So what the NCAA is experiencing today is a reflection of what he started back between 1979 and 1983.
What's been some of the feedback? Have you seen lives transformed? Other people getting in the pathway of financial services? What has been the result?
So the one that touches my heart the most is there was a gentleman who came to see Dr. Dennis Kimbrough in 2014. I didn't find this out until 2018, but at the time that he saw him, he was in a program at the Dallas County Community College program that was designed on helping young men of color not only be in school, but get through school. And so he was in that program. He had just got out of prison, and he was sleeping in his car. When he saw Dr. Dennis Kimbrough share his story about when he was writing the book Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, it took him 7 years, and at that time he lost his car. He was going through hardship. He was going through some things. And when you hear about stories of people who are successful in their process of success, it inspired him. He stuck with it, and he now graduated from college and has a mentor who is an attorney and is taking his LSAT to go to law school.
So this is a brother who started out in prison, was homeless, but gets inspired by a success story. Now he's preparing to be a lawyer himself.
Exactly. Yeah. So that story touches my heart. But then I have a number of people who've come to me and said, "Hey, Clifton, we went to your program in June on home buying, and I just bought my first house in February." Right. And so this is happening. What we do is we help people. We give them hope, like I said before, inspiration, education, and connect them to resources. And I believe that we're transforming lives one person at a time.
You know, a lot of young people that watch this show, they want to know how can they stack the paper.
Right on.
So I'm asking you, how can people stack their paper?
You know, we see all of these things coming at us that's designed to separate us between our money. And so what are we doing to really combat that? Are you waking up with a purpose, with a vision of what you want to accomplish and a plan of what you need to do to get there? Because if you don't have that plan, you're being flipped around in the wind. And we got to be careful, because a lot of times money is defined and success is defined by the amount of stuff that we have. Big house, big cars, you know, material things. And that's not really wealth.
Depreciating assets versus appreciating assets.
Exactly. And to your point, if you're about acquiring depreciation assets and not income generating assets, then we need to switch that. And so there's some effort involved in that. Identifying what is the wealth mindset, what are the principles that you should be thinking about, and then how do you embed that over years of oppressive thoughts. That's step number one. We are all leaders because people are watching us all the time. So how do we make this change? How do we make this movement? Is individually, if we're conscious about what we're doing with our time, then I think that can create a movement that can affect the negative things that are coming at us when people are wanting to rewrite history.
I think this is gonna work.
Small businesses like this learning center
There's only one way to find out.
help communities thrive. That's why Wells Fargo has donated roughly $420 million to diverse small business owners.
Back to Alpha. Ramp.
When a bank does what it says,
Okay. Those lights on, guys.
small businesses can reach new heights. Doing gets it done. Wells Fargo, the bank of doing.
Today, there seems to be a retrenchment, a backward force on diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Right.
After George Floyd's tragic murder, all the major corporations said, oh, we got to have a diversity officer. We're going to work on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now equity is almost a bad word.
Right, right.
How this retreat from diversity, equity, and inclusion affect what you do, but also just the basic access to capital?
So it is tough. So we already have barriers to access to capital, especially in our communities. We are charged higher interest rates when it comes to loans. We don't have financial institutions in our communities. So we already have those barriers. And when George Floyd happened and we got a windfall of additional attention and money, that was great. But I would like to look at that as icing on top of the cake, because at the end of the day, no one's going to come and save us. We've got to rely on ourselves. So when money is being retreated and when things get difficult for me, what that tells me is that I got to step up my game. Because to make anything to personal development, community development, takes somebody writing a check. So what I ask myself is, what relationships have I formed? What partnerships am I working with? And I don't want to make this a white and black thing, because it's much bigger than that. And I think you would agree to that with your bridging the divide, right? We are born to work together in a collaborative environment where we care for each other, mutual goals, and it's not about white, black, Democrat, Republican, or any of those things that divide us, because we're going to achieve and grow together, not separately.
Yeah, you're right. I think there's much more that we should celebrate in terms of the oneness of our humanity, rather than the division of our humanity, for all these various reasons. So if you had to write the how-to book on empowering people financially, what would the title be?
Wow. Besides Empower Series.
That's a good title.
I would start with that, and I would define Empower Series by, again, focusing on the mind, right? Because everything starts with the mind. If you look at a result cone, we have the top being results, and it's easy to see that results come from actions. And a lot of times when we're trying to change something, we start with the actions.
So I'm smiling because you deal with the subject of consciousness.
Yeah.
Consciousness raising. When former president of South Africa, Nelson Mandela, was alive, we had a discussion about consciousness raising in South Africa, but also in America. So you're saying, from a financial perspective, being conscious of the potential, being conscious of the opportunity, this consciousness that you're talking about, financial consciousness, lays the groundwork to actually get involved in generating revenue and on the pathway to wealth building.
Yes, and that's great because underneath actions are thoughts, beliefs. And then how do you change that? You change that by having an epiphany. So how do you create epiphanies? There's a number of things you can do. There's all these different directions you can come at it. But we mutually know Munson Steve. He talked about having an acronym for money.
He's Munson Steve from Rolling Out.
Yes, from Rolling Out. He has an acronym for money. So his acronym is manifesting opportunities and negotiating everything yourself. And so when's the last time we used the word manifestation? So he talks about manifestation is manifesting the thoughts that are in our mind, being conscious of our thoughts because they're endless possibilities, and we manifest them. So when it comes to a business idea, we all have an idea. Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, we talked about him before, the author of Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice. He says that we get thousands of ideas a year, but probably four or five that if we acted on, if we were bold and courageous enough to take action on these ideas, could transform our life financially, which is about adding value in the marketplace. And so I believe that everybody has an idea. That's a big idea, no matter how small it starts. So once you have your idea and you're conscious of it, the next step is to create some kind of plan that leads with a budget. So you have income, expenses, and what's happening now is that we're not saving enough. As a society, we save less than 7% of our income. That's not cutting it.
Well, why do you think that's? I know we are mass consumers. We over-index on social media, which sometimes is not that accurate or relevant to that consciousness, going back to your point. Where do people get their consciousness from?
Social media, TV. So life, I believe that life is a manifestation of our ideas, right? But life is also a battle. It's a battle over the territory of your mind. And if you're not waking up ready to fight that battle and do your meditation, do your praying, what is it, Denzel Washington says he hopes that your slippers are way underneath your bed so that when you wake up, you're getting on your knees and you're praying because you woke up. So waking up, you've already won. Now what you're going to do with it, because there's a lot of people who didn't wake up today and they have plans.
Well, that's a good thing, being awake. And of course, the governor of Florida is against woke. They're banning books. They're changing curriculums. And I don't want to divert on Governor DeSantis, but it's just not the governor.
Right.
He represents a view, a perspective that millions of Americans agree. How do we win people over to the notion that the more inclusiveness of the wealth building process, the better it strengthens our democracy. It doesn't weaken our democracy.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of different attacks and strategies that we have to implement to make a move in that area. So what I do, and I can speak to the Empower series, is I am addressing this individual at a time and community at a time to increase their consciousness and their awareness, because I believe that we all have certain skill sets. Some are in politics, some are in advocating for medical change or social change. And so what I do is I wake up every day and ask myself, okay, God, what am I supposed to do today with this time? Because it's not guaranteed. Am I being a good steward of it? So number one, have a conscious mindset that time is precious and that there are going to be things coming at me, news, negative, people doing things that I don't like, but I got to stay focused on my purpose. So what is that? Also, what is my plan? What am I doing with my resources? What am I doing with my time? Who are the relationships that I'm collaborating with? Because I believe that our collaboration is not to benefit you and I. Our collaboration is to benefit the millions of people that are going to be blessed because we've collaborated. So how am I walking through and building relationships and collaborating? Because we were born to network. We're born to create teamwork with each other. We're born to work together in a common bond of caring and sharing. So how am I doing that? And we had talked about this before. When I was a kid growing up in South Central LA, I was good at football, I was good at studying, but I wasn't really out there promoting myself with the brand. And so there was an article written about me that Clifton Johnson leads by example. And I would tell you that we are all leaders.
What was this article written?
It was written back in the 1970s when I was in high school, right? If I go back to my books, my mother kept all these articles about me. So, but
Very proud mother.
Oh my gosh, don't get me started. I'm gonna start crying, right? But the point I wanna make is we are all leaders because people are watching us all the time. So how do we make this change? How do we make this movement? Is individually, if we're conscious about what we're doing with our time and how we are called to be a good steward of not only our time, but our relationships, then I think that can create a movement that can affect the negative things that are coming at us when people are wanting to rewrite history and give us a hard time. Going back to getting your money right, it will be focusing on your mindset, number one. Once you get your mindset straight, you assess yourself personally, is to meet with a financial professional, because then they can customize a plan that's tailored for you.
Wells Fargo has donated $525 million
Hey, Mom, is this one really mine?
Honey, like I said, you get your own room.
to support housing affordability solutions for families across America. When a bank does what it says, more people can find a place to call their own. Doing gets it done. Wells Fargo, the bank of doing.
Clifton Johnson, you embody and exhibit not only financial success, but as you say, you want to share it with others.
Right.
From your informed experience, 3 most important steps of how to get your money right.
Yeah, so I would say number one, beyond understanding the mindset, it was, identify where you are today. Your income, your expenses, your assets, your liabilities. So it doesn't matter if you're not making enough money.
So a personal assessment.
Your personal assessment. So if you're not making enough money and you're having less money at the end of the month, living paycheck to paycheck, then you need to know that. And then we can talk about strategies to fix that, because you've got to save money to start creating wealth. What are your assets right now and what are your liabilities? And if you're already upside down, you're not making enough money to pay off all of your debts, and we got to solve that. That's in stage 1. And then the goal in stage 1 is to identify what are your targeted saving goals. So is it to get out of debt? Is it to create an emergency fund? Is it to save for retirement? Is it to buy a house? Let's identify that. For a lot of people, they never get out of stage 1 because they're just living day to day, right? And even if you're making enough money and you have money left over at the end of the month, if you're not doing that, you're still not being a good steward of your resources, because you could be saving more, because you're wasting. That's what I'm finding when I'm meeting with my clients, that the industry is designed to work with people who are saving. If you're not saving and you're in debt.
That's important. Say that again.
The industry is designed to work with people who are saving. And if you're not saving and you're in debt, the industry is not really designed to give you services.
Saving affect your credit score?
Saving, obviously, if you're not saving enough money when something comes up, you live it on your credit. And what we found is that if you're not saving enough, it's probably because you're spending not only more of your cash, but you're spending so much on debt. Your debt payments are eroding your ability to save. So again, going back to getting your money right, it will be focusing on your mindset, number 1. Number 2, personally assess where you are financially. And from there, identify what are your targeted saving goals, whether it's building up a cash reserve, which should be the number 1 goal for many people, 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. Is it getting out of debt? And is it saving for a long-term goal? Is it to buy a car, buy a house, or save for retirement? And you can be in that goal for 5 years, in that stage for 5 years. It's not so much what you invest in. A lot of people think about cryptocurrency, you should invest in real estate, healthcare. You should invest in a diversified portfolio that has large company stocks, mid-company stocks and small company stocks. And we define that by large companies are companies that are valued at $10 billion or more. And you define that by looking at the number of shares that are outstanding, and you multiply that by the price per share. So if that company is worth $10 billion, that's a large company. If it's mid-company, it's worth between $2 billion and $10 billion. If it's a small company, it's under $2 billion. But that in and of itself, you're best to sit down with a financial advisor. So the last thing I would say, once you get your mindset straight, you assess yourself personally, is to meet with a financial professional, because then they can customize a plan that's tailored for you. So right now, we have the mindset that I don't have enough money to work with a financial advisor. We need to bust that myth. If you don't have enough money to make it profitable for a financial advisor to work with you, then you talk to your banker. Start building those relationships now. And if a financial advisor is going to spend time with you and they're not making money from you, then you have an opportunity to build a relationship so that when you do make money, now you've built a relationship of trust. Because it's going to be hard when you already got money, because everybody's going to be looking at you thinking how much money I can make from you.
Great advice, and I hope that our listeners and our viewers will take to heart all of the recommendations that you've made. Clifton Johnson, thank you for being with us on How to Get Your Money Right.
Thank you.
The preceding program was a CRW worldwide production, proudly sponsored by Wells Fargo. Promotional consideration paid for by the following. The following is a CRW worldwide production, proudly sponsored by Wells Fargo.